Welcome to the FOMO Show about TV technology, home theater news, and today's headlines. LG just launched their much anticipated 2024 TV lineup, and the biggest complaint is the prices of their OLED TVs. The question is, when will LG stop with the annual incremental improvements, thereby keeping prices high, and instead focusing on lowering the prices so that it can expand market share and stay relevant? Speaking of relevance, Dolby Vision. Is this still relevant? Because it appears that it's lost its shine. Specifically, when the qned 85 was introduced a few years ago, it had Dolby Vision support. This year's 2024 qned 85T successor does not have Dolby Vision support. All of that and more on today's FOMO Show. Today's video is brought to you by WhoKeys. Trying to build a PC on a budget but don't know where to buy your Windows software cheaply? WhoKeys to the rescue. Use my coupon code SF20 and immediate discount with a free upgrade to Windows 11. At the bottom of this order where it says code CARD, to the right is the product key you need to activate Windows. So copy this long number, then go to the Windows menu and click on Settings. In the Settings menu at the bottom, select Update and Security. Select Activation, then select Change Product Key, paste what you copied from WhoKeys, click Next, click Activate, and you're done. You can buy Windows 11 Pro or Office 2019 Pro with my discount code SF20. Yes, I've been using WhoKeys for the last several years on my own PC builds, and it just works. My friends, let's start with the 2024 LG OLED TV lineup, beginning with its flagship, the G4, and it's expensive. Well, no more expensive than last year. If you take inflation into account, I think it's $100 more, whatever, right? It is premium, it is awesome. Why are you paying this premium? Why is it the most expensive in LG's lineup? First, upgraded MLA. Brighter than ever. Brighter specular highlights, 3000 nits in theory, and brighter APL, brighter full screen. And number two, my favorite, is the upgraded AI processor. Now, it can compete with Sony XR Clear. And third, 5-year warranty. That all goes to why it's very expensive, and that's fine. However, how large is this premium market for flagship TVs like the Sony A95L or the Samsung S95C, S95D, and now the G4? It's not that large. What concerns me is one step below, the C4. That is the meat of the market. I was hoping it would be cheaper. The G4 justifies its price premium, right? We listed all the great things the G4 has. The C4, no improvement. So the G4 has improved MLA, improved AI processor, slightly brighter, so a little bit more expensive. I got it. C4, no change. Shouldn't there be a price drop? Without MLA, the C4 has already fallen behind last year's Samsung S90C, S89C, because if the C4 is essentially unchanged from the C3, that means it's not going to be better than last year's Samsung S90C. That's a problem for LG. Now, it's okay if the C4 is not that much better than the C3. No big deal, but definitely you got to lower the prices. If you're not going to add MLA or you're not going to add that improved AI processor that the G4 has, lower the prices. Now, I know they're going to release a less expensive B4 later in the year, but consistently, whether it was the B1, B2, B3, and now the B4, it's only $100 or $200 less expensive than the C4. That doesn't move the needle for consumers. I suggest next year for the C5, combine the value of an A series, B series, and C series together. Attack the value market, and this is why. If you want OLED to increase its market share in the TV space, you have to hit pricing hard. It's not just to recapture market share from Samsung's OLED, right? Because last year, Samsung took 25% of LG's market share. This year, it may fall even further behind than Samsung, but forget Samsung for now. I'm talking about an existential crisis for OLED altogether. If LG wants OLED to spread beyond where it is currently, it needs to lower prices, and here's an example. Right now, if you go to Best Buy, you see that the 75-inch TCL QM8 is $1,300, the 75-inch Sony X90L is $1,600. Slightly more expensive, slightly better processing, I get it. And then you have the 77-inch S89C, which is equivalent to Samsung's S90C QD OLED, my editor's choice, amazing TV, slightly more, yeah, $1,800. Done. However, does it make sense to you that the 77-inch C3 is over $2,200? This is the problem. I think LG has lost touch with its pricing and its audience given the competition. But that's the 77-inch size. Let's get to the size that I know will be more popular in the coming years, and that's the 83-inch size, beginning with the most expensive, which has already been released, the G4 at $6,500. Yes, it's a premium, but for the first time you get MLA, brighter across the board. And then the G3, which does not have MLA, is $5,000, down to the Sony A80L, which does have the XR Clear at $4,500, then down to the LG C3 at $3,745, then down to the S90C at $3,150. Now, if you're on Samsung.com and you're an offer member and you ask in chat for a deal, they'll even drop it to $2,500 for offer members. So as you can see, there's a huge spread between the top of the range, G4 at $6,500, and the bottom of the range, Samsung S90C 83-inch at $2,500, let's say, all using the same OLED technology from LG Display, WOLED. And so I see two strategies at play here, and this is very important to consider. Samsung is taking the route of, let's lower our prices as low as possible. Let's not even make money on it. It's an experiment. Samsung is saying, look, if we drop the prices to a point where we don't make money, will consumers buy it? And I'll tell you why shortly why they're doing this, right? Dropping it to 83 inches, or dropping the price of an 83-inch to under $3,000. G4 from LG is taking the other route. Let's make the most awesome, best 83-inch possible. MLA, AI processing, everything. Let's throw the book at it and charge accordingly. $6,500 and see if people will go for it. Both of them are trying to do something, which is, can OLED survive either as a halo product, G4, or as an affordable, relatively affordable, 83-inch OLED? And this is why. On the Samsung side, they're thinking, we are not going to sell QD OLED at 83 inches. If you're not going to buy a cheap WOLED, why would you get a more expensive QD OLED? Because ultimately, consumers shopping, 90% of them do not know the difference between WOLED and QD OLED. They just know it's OLED. It's a great image quality, and the S90C at 83 inches actually has amazing image quality simply because it's OLED, right? That infinite contrast you're going to see and benefit from 90% of the time. You don't need that extra brightness. So Samsung knows that. They're like, hey, let's put out a very inexpensive WOLED and see what happens at 83 inches. If consumers will not buy this inexpensive OLED, what's the point in getting an 83-inch QD OLED if you're not going to buy it at this price? Because the QD OLED will definitely be more expensive, maybe even closer to $4,000 or $5,000. Now, the G4 from LG is saying we are going to throw the book, the kitchen sink, at this processor, at this panel. Let's make it the best we can. Let's see what happens. My fear is they are going against a completely different market than it was maybe a few years ago, and this is the new market. It is LCD TVs / mini LED TVs that are 98 inches, 100 inches, 110 inches for a premium price. Specifically, if you're going over $5,000, you now have the G4 with MLA at $6,500, or potentially the Hisense U10, that's probably a little bit more expensive than that. The U10, UX, I'm just getting confused with Greek and letters, right? So the Hisense UX, 110 inches, likely above $6,000, maybe close to that, but somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000. So, but it's 110 inches, right? And then you have the Sony super duper 4,000 nit mini LED, possibly called the XR90, maybe something else, but ultimately this TV is going to be 85 inches and probably $6,000, maybe a little bit more. This is what LG is going after, is the premium mini LED LCD TVs. However, what about the $2,000 98-inch TCL S5, the $2,000 100-inch Hisense U76N. Both of these TVs are eating the meat of OLED TV sales, meaning if you're in the market for an OLED TV and you're shopping, let's say $2,000, that would put you squarely in the 65-inch range for a C4 and the latest S90D, right? 65 inches for a TV or 100 inches for an LCD TV. That's the problem, which takes us to pricing again. If LG dropped its C4 prices much lower, we're talking instead of $2,000, it's $1,200. Now we're talking, right? It could sell that $1,200 to a 65-inch buyer, but at $2,000, that buyer's like, well, maybe I should look at an 85-inch LCD TV, a 98-inch, even a 75-inch, 65-inch. It's pushing the limits of size and value, and that's the issue. These consumers have money to spend. It's not like they're saving money. It's rather they want the best and largest TV for the buck, and OLED is falling behind in that size to value ratio. So 2024 is a critical year for OLED TVs with this existential crisis in play. First, a good LCD TV that's definitely good enough is now the same price as a good OLED TV, but you're getting 2 sizes larger. Second, and this is critical, consumers are realizing, wait, I can actually sit closer to a 4K TV that's larger, and it's okay. Check out my video on viewing angles and seating distances about that. But specifically, in the past, you're so used to sitting maybe 8 feet, 9 feet away from a 65-inch TV because way back when, 1080p, right, you're told to sit a certain distance. But with 4K, and I've done this countless times, you can sit 8 to 9 feet away from a 100-inch TV and completely enjoy immersion without any of that, oh, I'm too close, I can see the soft pixels, right? Doesn't happen, not with 4K. And most consumers do sit from 8 to 9 to 10 feet away from their TV, and they're thinking, my next upgrade has to be size, because size is immersive. But if you want OLED to survive at all, then LG and LG Display needs to find a way to lower the prices, which means stop with the incremental upgrades, right? Every time you make it a little bit better, you have to raise the price. I get it. So why don't you leave that with the G series? On the C series, just stop. Do not improve anything. It is definitely good as is. Focus on productivity, making it cheaper, cutting some of the costs, but definitely make it cheaper. And one of the costs that I think you're going to be cutting, Dolby Vision. Oh, I know. I'm going to put on my flame suit. But here's the thing. LG is already doing it. They are cutting back on Dolby Vision. Is Dolby Vision relevant anymore if LG is cutting back its support on Dolby Vision? What am I talking about? Well, other than predicting they're going to cut support from Dolby Vision for the C series in order to make it cheaper, they've already done it for the QNED series, and you never even knew. Or did you? Let's talk about that. Beginning with the QNED 75 and QNED 80, they pulled Dolby Vision from both of these TVs, but they left it on the more premium QNED 85. Well, no more. This year's successor, the QNED 85T, no Dolby Vision. And I know you're thinking, wait, maybe the QNED 85T, these names. What happened to like Camaro, Mustang, Miata? Well, the Miata of TVs, the QNED 85T, no longer has Dolby Vision support. And before you say, oh, maybe it's just too cheap, right? No. The $6,999 QNED 89T, right? This is the 98-inch TV, does not have Dolby Vision support. More importantly, this TV is premium because it has precision dimming. That is one step above their normal QNED. The only other TV that has precision dimming is their mini LED QNED 90T, which still does have Dolby Vision support. But for me, the question is, why are you pulling away Dolby Vision support at all if that has been your thing? Remember, LG is the client monitor OLED for Dolby Vision, right? What's happening? And before you say, you know what, you don't need Dolby Vision for cheap TVs, let's take a look at a TCL S4, a $250 TV. It has Dolby Vision. And here's what many people don't realize. Dolby Vision support is expensive. And before you say, wait, if it's so expensive, why is it on the TCL S4? That's not why it's expensive. Throwing Dolby Vision, the licensing itself, like just throwing the chip in, giving it Dolby Vision quote unquote support, that's not what it means. Support means to truly tune the TV specific to Dolby Vision content to make sure it's accurate to Dolby Vision. That takes time, that takes money, resources, engineering skill, This is why on lesser TVs from Hisense and TCL, even the more expensive TVs from Hisense and TCL, and this includes Sony flagship, by the way, it's a mess. Dolby Vision does not always look great on these TVs because it is hard to tune it for that TV. The Hisense consistently, Dolby Vision is just too bright. On the Sony A95L, Dolby Vision is still an issue. This is a $4,000 or $5,000 TV at launch, and yet to this day, Dolby Vision is still requiring a lot of work from Sony to get it to work. On a firmware update, they are working on it. It is still not perfect. That is a problem. So think about it. Whether it's a flagship Sony or the cheapest of the cheap TCL, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to tune it to make sure Dolby Vision works well out of the box. So what does this mean? It means that if LG wants to save money on resources, money, engineering, then pull Dolby Vision support for its lesser TVs. The qned, less than a 90T, so the 89T and 85T, pull it. And what is the consequence of pulling Dolby Vision support? Absolutely nothing. HDR10 works absolutely fine, if not better in some cases, when the TV maker has no time and no money to support Dolby Vision properly. I suggest TCL and Hisense to also pull Dolby Vision, because what's the point of having it if it doesn't look great? Well, forget great, doesn't look good at all. This is an ongoing problem with Dolby Vision on TVs. The TV makers simply don't have the time and money to make it work right. If that's the case, then pull it. Remember, as consumers, we were promised that Dolby Vision makes everything look good. That's not the case. Dolby Vision alone doesn't make things look good. It requires proper tuning on the TV side. I'm not even talking about grading on the Dolby Vision side, right? We're talking on the TV side. If the consumer does not calibrate it properly, it'll crush its black. Perfect example, the LG G3, which I have, horribly dark in Dolby Vision. It needs to be calibrated so that the Dolby Vision looks correct, even on that G3. It's still out of the box, it's slightly better than the Sony, but the Sony can't even be fixed with calibration, right? So here we are today with LG pulling support for Dolby Vision because it's realizing if we're going to survive, we've got to cut costs. And if we're going to cut costs, the first to go is something that people really don't notice if it's gone, and that's Dolby Vision. We'll have more to talk about that in another video, but for now, you tell me, is Dolby Vision important to you? And if it is, what TV do you have? Because I'm pretty certain the TV you have is not doing Dolby Vision correctly. Until next time, my friends, enjoy your Dolby Vision free TV.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.